Welcome back to another video, ladies and gentlemen. Sending out a lot of love. We have part 2 of The Flesh That Hates, SCP-610, illustrated by SCP Illustrated. SCP Illustrated, if you would like me to take down my video or any of them before, I do not mind. And I'm starting to learn that copyright in the beginning doesn't even protect you anyways when using fair use, so I might just stop even including it. But other than that, let's get to the video. And yeah, here's part 2, folks. Keep telling me, I'll continue the series now that people want me to continue it, so I will.
Hello everybody and welcome to part 2 of SCP-610. If you haven't seen part 1, I would really advise you actually go and watch it, else you're not going to understand any of this. You can find links to the cards, the description, most likely the suggested videos, and there's a playlist on the channel as well. Right, let's get in.
One thing in part 1, which was really weird, but I said it at the end, was just where they had the rover go in. And the only normal looking man in that flesh town, they did not investigate. They were just like, this is okay. This building's okay. Nothing odd or anomalous in here. That was weird to me. Part 2, here we go.
SCP-610-L2. During construction of the perimeter surrounding SCP-610's containment area, several Class D personnel were infected due to assaults from infected villagers or animals roaming in the area, in addition to a number of infections as a result of escape attempts and careless behaviour. Most of these infected personnel were immediately destroyed with flamethrowers. However, a small collection of infected were contained in cold storage units, which prolonged the inevitable progression of SCP-610's mutative properties. The decision was made to utilise some of these infected personnel as video relays and dispatch them into nearby sites. Due to the concern over loss of equipment as evidenced in SCP-610-L1, all 3 subjects that were used in this manner were sent in with a single video system to Site C. Additional equipment issued for this dispatch include a 1-gallon container of gasoline, 3 emergency flares.
Okay, so he's explaining the equipment that they're going in with, but I'm not gonna lie, from this picture alone, they look underprepared for what the hell they're about to witness. Imagine going into this, if you have not seen part 1, knowing what they're about to go into, yeah.
3 9mm pistols with 3 magazines of ammo.
And I guess that answers the thing I said before, they're not afraid to burn it. I don't know if this thing is airborne or could be made airborne, but I guess not. I know it releases like some gas, was it, like that lingers in the area for a minute but then dissipates. But
3 single-serving food rations. The infected personnel were instructed to observe and avoid interaction with the infected villagers for as long as possible, but should a situation arise where they are met with aggression or feel they are losing themselves to SCP-610's influence, they are free to kill as many infected villagers as they so choose and do as much damage to infected objects and property as possible while maintaining video feed. The intent of this order was to provide data of SCP-610 infected communities in a raid situation so a plan of eradication could be better established. At the time of this expedition, Site C was suspected to be a possible origin point for SCP-610, having far fewer mobile infected than other sites, as well as structures which appear to have been layered over several times with the terraforming effects of the immobile infected. Dispatched Class D personnel, known henceforth as DI-1, DI-2 and DI-3, were directed to pay particular attention to anything that could be considered an origin point of SCP-610.
okay, that makes sense.
The trek from our perimeter camp to Site C was uneventful. There is no evidence of any native animal life in the area. As Site C is approached, there is a noticeable rise in temperature within the last 30 meters of the trip that necessitates removal of the heavy cold-based coverings that were provided. The temperature rises again sharply at the entrance to Site C proper, which requires a further shedding of garments for fear of heat stroke. Temperatures within Site C are described as being heavily humid and around 32 degrees Celsius. One of the first immediately noticed traits about Site C is an array of immobile pylons which encircle what is believed to be the entirety of the site.
Oh my gosh, we are playing Rainbow Six Siege Extraction. Bruh, this is like one of the, what other game has things like this? I suppose Dying Light, if you're familiar with Dying Light, and like when you do the Night Hunter, what is it? Or actually, no, when you just go and destroy the nests from Dying Light 1. I don't know if they're in Dying Light 2 still, but yeah, when you go to the were they called the Night Hunters? Were they called the Night Hunters? Maybe not. Night Hunters. Yeah, the Night Hunters zombie mutation, those really, really crazy mutated scary ones that freaking mandibles go. But those things, when you go and see their nests, they got like the little ones in the ground that you have to shoot at and pop while the other ones are coming at you. That's what that looks like.
By an apparent distance of 5 to 6 meters, each pylon appears to be 2 to 4 infected persons fused together in one spot. On some of these pylons, features such as faces and anuses are still visible, in addition to several other
faces. That's so specific. Faces and anuses are still visible. Why?
holes which do not naturally occur, all appearing to act as
Tryptophobia.
Where the heat is generated is unknown.
Phobia.
Current belief is that this is an advanced stage of SCP-610 terraforming its environment to facilitate the spread of itself. DI-2, who was furthest along in progression of SCP-610 of the 3 by a number of hours, begins to seizure after only a few minutes in Site C during examination of the pylons.
His drawings are a little bit too good. I know I say this and I will never stop saying it, but the drawing is too good. So graphic. I would have threw my gasoline canister and blew it up if I was going to.
The progression to the scar tissue phase of SCP-610 infection is observed in full course as DI-2 spasms on the ground, his entire body being overtaken by the sickly tan flesh almost entirely after 45 seconds.
Whoa.
DI-2 is terminated by a gunshot from DI-1 and his equipment left where it is. The spread of SCP-610 over DI-2 continues even after death of the body until all movement ceases.
That makes sense.
As Perimeter Control is relaying new instructions to DI-2 and DI-3 regarding this situation, there is a shift in the ground covering in Site C where DI-2's body is. Video feed shows the flesh-like growth splitting open beneath his body and a series of rotary tentacles coming from within the gap to pull his corpse inside. This opening closes up quickly. Total time elapsed 3 seconds. As DI-1 and DI-3 decide to act quickly in the hotter temperatures, fearing the same fate, they proceed to the village centre and encounter another previously unknown phenomenon.
Okay, reduce, reuse, recycle is what this whole flesh that hates is about. But no, wait, okay, so they're in a high temperature zone right now, so that obviously like certain illnesses speeds up the infection, I'm assuming, and the cold keeps it at bay because they're infected. I think that's what I missed in the beginning. They sent in personnel that were, or not personnel, but that were already infected. But I think I missed that. So my bad if I missed that. But then, yeah, I guess they would want to get the hell out of there pretty quick. But how did... He must have really been farther along than the other two.
In the precise center of the town, rising above what was the community well, is a sphere suspended by angled supports comprised of SCP-610 flesh. This ball is riddled with the features of humans in the early stages of SCP-610
What
infection,
a drawing.
as well as a good number assumed to be in later stages.
That is the
thumbnail. A number of specimens of non-human life forms such as deer and bears are also visible within the mass. The entire sphere of flesh pulses at roughly a 5-second interval, and with each pulse emits a ring of spore-like material from its equator. This material floats to the ground and appears to be absorbed into the converted environment. D13 begins to douse the sphere with the provided gasoline, and when questioned by a panicking DI-1, explains this looks like a good as thing as any to burn. At this point, Perimeter Control has ceased giving commands due to the rapid deterioration of events. There is no reaction from anything within Site C to any of this activity until the precise moment at which a lit emergency flare is applied to the spherical mass, which immediately goes up in flames.
See,
The remote
I would have been personally doing this to the 3 connected bodies I've seen back there.
feed plays back a noise from an unknown location that seems to come from a location far outside of Site C, but was reported as being heard even at Perimeter Control by both Site C and A.
This just hit my mind, but oh my gosh, the one guy that just died, was he D1? This is D2 and D3 still alive? Or, yeah. Wait, was it D? Oh my gosh, I gotta pay attention to the things. It's because it comes and like does not stick in my mind. But bruh, imagine being conscious during the freaking transformation taking place, or that infection, like the freaking flesh flapping over you. Oh my god,
This noise is described as
excruciating
both explosive, as if multiple high-yield charges were detonated on a mountainside, and alive, like a large feral creature roaring. Within 15 seconds following the sound's dissipation, Site A reported that a series of explosions had occurred within the village. 5 seconds after this report, the spherical mass in the middle of Site C explodes. DI-1 and DI-3 are thrown by the blast. DI-3 is confirmed deceased by DI-1 after regaining his footing, having
So it
suffered
was
injury from
D2.
stone shrapnel
DI2 died horribly. DI3 just died and got an explosion death.
from the well. DI-1 is able to report he has bruises and ringing of ears, but aside from the rapidly spreading SCP-610 infection, he suffered no blast damage. During this recording of footage, DI-1 had his video equipment removed and was looking into it. Due to the angle of recording, it is unknown precisely what occurred in Site C, but something draws DI-1's attention back to the centre of town where he stares for several moments, then is pulled in the opposite direction. The video equipment falling to the ground and recording a skyward direction. The last moments of footage from DI-1's video unit display a humanoid figure moving through the air, followed by the sound of an impact in the same direction. Within 3 seconds of this event, an unknown creature steps upon the recording video equipment and destroys it. Perimeter control remained on high alert for a full 24 hours at all locations within any incident following this event. SCP-610-L3. The destruction caused by the rapid collapse of Site C exploration attempt during SCP-610-L2 resulted in a series of unexpected events in Site A. As the strange spherical formation in Site C was burned and destroyed, the SCP-610 infected inhabiting Site A were recorded by aerial drones going into seizures and convulsions.
What the hell is
The
that?
immobile SCP-610 infected rapidly shriveled and died, along with all the flesh material spread across inanimate objects within the village. The mobile SCP-610 infected were able to regain their footing, all proceeded to what appears to have formerly been an upper-class residence and entered in the building. As the infected entered this dwelling, it suffered a foundational collapse, revealing the presence of a sinkhole beneath it. The size of the hole in relation to the structure above it posed an impossibility for an entire building to collapse, suggesting something within the hole applied force directly to the structure with the intent to pull it inside and expose the hole. The revealed hole is approximately large enough to accommodate 3 grown men standing shoulder to shoulder. Light sources applied by remote drones fail to penetrate further than 4 meters deep into the hole. Objects dropped into the hole do not produce an impact sound, suggesting a bottom potentially more than 1,000 meters down. Research of the exterior of Site A hole was only to be able to be carried out for 2 hours' time.
Imagine falling in this shit.
Samples of the atmosphere in Site A indicated a complete death of SCP-610 related materials. All infectious life that did not evacuate into the hole died above ground and quickly became shriveled husks.
Okay.
Manned exploration of Site A was approved and commenced immediately. In the span of 30 minutes, a total of 3 research teams consisting of 2 to 3 research staff and 4 to 5 armed escort each were dispatched and setting up stations within the remains of the village. Samples of deceased SCP-610 infected and converted matter were sent back to the Perimeter HQ for processing and transport.
So
One team was able to recover a small sample of still living SCP-610 tissue substance from a building and pack it for research. Within the second hour of exploration of Site A series of echo reverberation units were set up surrounding the hole with the intent of getting an accurate mapping of the hole, and possible
okay.
branch tunnels.
So did the did the gasoline bomb actually work? I'm lost.
At the end of this second hour before the echo units could be activated, seismic activity began to occur within Site A. 2 teams of the original 3 remained on site, the third en route to Perimeter HQ with samples. The third team was instructed to proceed back to the Perimeter HQ when seismic activity began, and was told that Site A should not be returned to for assistance. Seismic activity in Site A capped at 2.3 Richter level before petering off. Immediately following the seismic events, a torrent of SCP-610 spores erupted from the ground and layered the area around it for a span of 50 meters. As all staff on site were in Level A hazardous material suits, this spore burst was startling but did not lead to any infections.
Oh, okay.
As the eruption was being reported, both teams at Site A came under attack from aerial lifeforms infected with SCP-610. These organisms were captured by the remote drone video equipment and showed extremely advanced stages of infection. It is impossible to tell what they mutated from to this present state. Many of the avian creatures attacked by splitting their heads in half and clamping them around research members, pulling them into the air and dropping them into the hole when possible. These avian infected proved vulnerable to small arms fire. In dispatching them, a total of 2 research staff were lost to the hole and 1 injured during the crossfire. The injured staff was put down immediately upon showing signs of infection due to his suit breach. Before video and radio contact was lost with the remaining teams inside.
Okay, so what I'm gathering right now is that they tried to clamp down on their heads and drop them in the hole for what I can only assume is SCP-610 needs some sort of sustenance. It needs some sort of living regular matter to exist. So it's got to keep feeding it because it like fed the hole, and after the one of those, what I'm only assume is the core was destroyed, it had to retreat. But I don't even know if that retreat was because of that. Man.
Site A second seismic event began to occur, starting out in the 1 to 1.5 range in scale. Attention was directed at the hole to prepare for a second assault. A second spore burst erupted from the hole during the rising seismic activity. At the point where scales registered a 3 to 3.5 in force, a new unseen SCP-610 entity began to emerge from the hole. The only footage captured of this creature depicts an engorged human head, approximately 20 times larger than a normal, pressing itself out of the hole with no discernible body. Video and radio contact were lost as seismic forces increased to 7 on the scale for 2 seconds during then abruptly ceased. Further aerial surveillance of Site A hole and the area depicts zero activity and no trace of the research teams or their ever having been there. All personnel and equipment are considered lost. Part 3 is going to be coming out soon. Be sure to check out my social media outlets to get updates on when the next video is going to be coming out.
What is this SCP, bro? This is so weird. The flesh that hates. Well, I think I want to like hop right into part 3, but let me know what you think down below about this. Holy moly. Much love and moonlight, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.